So Janki Bakle, from Berkeley, University of California, and there's a quote of Janki Bakle which says that Savarkar's influence in modern India rivals that of Mohanchand Karamchand Gandhi. She places Savarkar among the four most important anti-colonial nationalists, along with Gandhi, Jawaharlal Nehru, and Subhash Chandra Bose.
Mhm.
Now, my question is, if that is the case, then why even people like Vivek Agnihotri or many people like me, I know so many well-read people, for them also, why Ambedkar remains so understudied and so under-discussed or underwritten?
You can add Vikram also to that list of people, because before this book and the research for it, to be honest, Vivekji, even I didn't know much about Savarkar. I knew a very broad picture of his life, but then I studied history, I mean, CBSE syllabus, and I don't remember, and it was not too long ago that I did my schooling, so I don't remember in those days Savarkar even being a part of the history textbooks. I don't know how it is now and so on. But then those days, neither was he a part of the syllabus, nor also even, I mean, maybe in passing, we knew that there was something called cellular jail. But what all happened, what were the kind of tortures, inhuman sufferings that our ancestors faced there to get us freedom? We're such an ungrateful nation that we don't even, recollect all of this. And 75 years later, I think I keep telling time and again that places like cellular jail, Jallianwala Bagh, these should become Tirth Sthan for us Indians, and school children should be taken there as part of the education ministry's plans to inculcate nationalism. See for themselves. Let them just one round of the cellular jail. Even now, how it is, the cells and so on. Anybody who's sensitive and who's a nationalist, I think something in you churns. And to realize there's a Sound and Light show which comes way back from the 1970s. It's not changed. It's the same. Om Puri ki Awaaz mein hai wo, the Sound and Light show, but nothing has changed there. So I think a lot more can be done to ensure that these stories come out. In the case of Savarkar, particularly, I think the antipathy for him was so much post-independence, and I would attribute that largely to the first Prime Minister of this country, who really did not want any kind of political opposition to him in any way. And so we could talk about that later, but then even Dr. Ambedkar mentions how Savarkar was probably implicated in the murder of Gandhi to ensure that his political career, his reputation was just finished off. And Ambedkar himself, as the law minister, tells this to Savarkar's lawyer, Bhopatkar, and says that, your client is being falsely implicated in this case. There's no evidence against him. He will get away. And I quote the source and the details of that in the book. So, and even though he was exonerated by the court and came out, the very fact that this so-called taint of the murder stuck on with him, people were so scared to be associated with him. Anybody who even had a long measure of association with him paid a very heavy price. Today, I'm able to write 2 volumes about him. We are able to have this open discussion, which is a symbol of a new India where everything is can be openly discussed. But again, I quote often the infamous example of how about 25, 30 years ago, someone of the reputation of Pandit Hridaynath Mangeshkar ji, just for the fact that he tuned Savarkar's Marathi poems, ने मजसी ने परत मात्र भूमिला सागरा प्राण तळमळला, and Jayostute, that very patriotic song, and which the Mangeshkar sisters sang. For that, he lost his job from the All India Radio. He was given a show cause notice saying, why did you choose this song? Hridaynath ji, in fact, in an interview in ABP Majha, so a few years back or so, he narrates this incident, and even I had met him and he told me this, that he, in reply to the show cause notice, he just said 2 words: good poet, very good poetry. So that was the only show cause notice. Why did you choose this poem? These were the two necessary and sufficient condition: very good poet and very good poetry. And it is good to set it to lyrics, but just that fact was enough for the highly tolerant Nehruvian India then to ensure that Mr. Mangeshkar loses his job. So in such a case, who would take the risk of associating himself with him? In fact, Savarkar himself, there's another anecdote that Lataji, for some film venture, she had approached him to grace the occasion and so on, and be the chief guest. And you can imagine the angst in his heart at that time. I think this was towards the latter half of his life, towards the end, where he says, I'm so inauspicious. If I touch anything, that project will fall into trouble. You will immediately get into the bad books of the government or the police or whatever. Are you very serious that you want me for it? And she insisted, and that is when he actually went to that event. So this was the kind of, it's an irony that someone who all his life fought for the eradication of social untouchability became a political untouchable, in the system. And he was not studied, he was sidelined, and all kinds of allegations, slurs, almost making a joke of his life, not taking into account all the immense sacrifices that he made for this country. That was what he was reduced to. And more so in his case, the fact that he was the propounder of the theory of Hindutva, the ideology of Hindutva. And ever since the time, Hindutva has become, a political force to reckon with in our country. Anybody who wants to attack the parties who subscribe to Hindutva ideology today, they think the best way to do it is by attacking the founder of the ideology. And so Savarkar becomes the fall guy, and all these slurs: he was a traitor, he was a betrayer, a British stooge, he had sold out, he was a murderer, he wrote his own autobiography, he gave himself the title Veer. All these kind of allegations are put forth, which have no historical basis, and not being a defensive account, but I'm trying to just put the perspective in place as to what is exactly the narrative. I'll just give one example. Often it is said that he is the one who wrote this biography, right? The life of barrister Savarkar by this man called Chitragupta. Now, it is often said that he wrote it in his own pseudonym, and so he was such a megalomaniac that he used to praise himself and so on. But then in the book, I bring out that this life of barrister Savarkar came out in the year 1926 when he was still interned in Ratnagiri. And the book was published from Madras, not anywhere from Bombay Presidency. And about 10 years later, when Savarkar is released from Ratnagiri, he takes over the Hindu Mahasabha presidentship. At that time, several leaders, including Nehru and Subhash Chandra Bose, sent congratulatory messages on his release. One of them who sends this is C. Rajagopalachari, who was a huge admirer of Savarkar. And he writes this, and I quote him: "What can I now add to a biography of his that I had penned nearly 20 years ago, because since then his intellectual prowess must have only deepened by his prolonged introspection during his extended internment." Unquote. So very clearly, Rajaji was saying that he had written a biography of Savarkar, and the place of publication was Madras. Rajaji was from Madras. So if one could connect those dots, there is one assumption that probably it was C. Rajaji who wrote his biography. Another thing which I found quite serendipitously was in July 1927, the Bombay Chronicle newspaper, it came out with a small advertisement about this book. And it said this again, and I quote, "The story of the life of this famous patriot written by a close friend." That was the blurb of the book in Bombay Chronicle, which also gave some credence to the fact that maybe it was one of his associates, VVS Iyer, who was with him in London, and he comes back to India. He takes shelter in Pondicherry because that was under French rule and you could do a lot of anti-British activity from there. He associates himself with Subramanya Bharati and all of them. And VVS Iyer died in 1927 or so. So just a few year before he died, it could be possible that he penned this biography, because a lot of details of Savarkar's young days are not there in this book. His days in Nashik, his days in the Abhinav Bharat, the Mitra Mela, those are not there in this book. It starts, a lot of detail is given of what happened in London, what happened in Paris. So it was very clear that there was someone who was a colleague who had seen all this with him during his revolutionary days in Europe and had written about it. So because if Savarkar had to write his own story and praise himself, he would have praised himself right from childhood. Why would he leave that, from childhood I was thinking this and that? So that was also not done. So despite these logical loopholes, so either it was Rajaji or VVS Iyer, both of whom were in the Madras presidency during that time, who got this book published. And the advertisements of the time itself says the story of the life of a famous patriot written by a close friend. Despite that, today in 240 characters in social media, you demolish the reputation of a man and say, oh, but he was such he gave himself all these epithets and glorious titles, to which, you can try to wake up someone who is sleeping, but someone who is acting like he's sleeping, you can't do much to wake them up. So a long answer to your short question, that these are all the malicious propaganda that has gone around for this man, which has made him completely a footnote, or even worse than that, in history. And even people like you and me, who otherwise are interested in history, who read books, we didn't know about him till now.
Because it's also a matter of habit, what you have been taught from childhood. And I remember both my parents were freedom fighters. So
Wow.
but what we discussed at home, and my father was a professor and vice chancellor, so education, this thing. But we discussed Savarkar only at home, and that also very few times, and never to other people, because at that time I think Arjun Singh was the chief minister and Indira Gandhi was very powerful, and I was in Kendriya Vidyalaya. But in my school, I remember, since you were talking, so I was thinking, and I very strongly remember that sometimes, because Bhopal has a lot of Marathi population also, New Bhopal has a lot of Maharashtrians, and generally in government services. Now, these children sometimes used to talk about Savarkar, but always in hush hush, never publicly. Like Godse, I mean, it was a crime to speak about Godse. I mean, if we have free country, free speech, then in school, I mean, that kind of debate should be encouraged. There should not be any problem. But I remember till I came to Mumbai, and just a decade, till about 10, 15 years ago, I won't talk about Godse or Savarkar publicly or in a party, or especially in film industry, big no-no. And my career was advertising and then film industry, so big no-no. Never would I do that. I don't know if my children know anything about Savarkar like they know about Bose or Gandhi or Nehru and this thing. So that's a problem, and it's very sad. But anyway,